Hello, everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Kat. I'm a wife, a homeschool mom, and an avid reader. For everyone else, welcome back. We are officially into November, and we're a third of the way into November. Um, and I took a small hiatus from reading, from posting, from anything not to do with my family. We had a death in the family we knew was going to be coming, but it came a little sooner than our hearts were prepared. And so, impromptu trip to my parents' house in Arkansas and spending time with family plus grieving just really upset my posting schedule along with my reading in general, truthfully, life in general. But let's try to get back on track here and start with, oh, if I can pick them all up, what I read in October. Um, my October reading was, I wish I could say it was diverse, but it definitely was not. Um, it was very much a horror, um, a horror reading month. It's October. What else should we read other than horror? So let's jump in to what I did read. So to start November off, or October off, I'm sorry. The first book I read was God of the Woods by Liz Moore. This is a story about a family who own a summer camp. And at this camp, their son went missing. And then 13 years later, their daughter goes missing. Um, it definitely is one that I enjoyed reading. I enjoyed the twists and turns in it, but I did not get the same hype everyone else did from this book. Um, Thoroughly enjoyed it. I believe I gave it 4.5 stars. Um, but it just felt like something was missing, and there were some parts that were slightly predictable in it. But overall, I did have a good time reading it, and I would recommend it to anyone who likes those camp vibes along with some twists and turns. I will say this one reminded me a lot of Riley Sager's The Last Time I Lied. Um, as I was reading it, and that could have been why I didn't enjoy it as much. Also, another reason, I have a weird I had a weird first experience with Liz Moore. I read The Unseen World, um, and it did not sit the same with me, and it's kind of tainted some of how I have come across some of Liz Moore's books since then. But I I really enjoyed the summer camp vibes in this, along with the mystery going on around everything in the title. The next book I read was by Darcy Coates, and it was Where He Can't Find You. This one, I I gave 4.75 stars, I believe. And I did so because I felt that it was missing something. I couldn't put my finger on what, but it just didn't quite hit the usual Darcy Coates nail on the head for me. But this one was very interesting, and I couldn't put it down throughout the whole read. We have Abby Ward, and she lives in a town where people disappear and later are found with their bodies mutilated. Um, and because of this, so many people choose in this town, instead of confronting the problem, they refuse to go out after dark and they don't go into the forest until Abby's sister disappears and she refuses to allow the Stitcher to ruin her family. And so a lot of twists and turns in this. Like I said, it just felt that something slightly was missing, but overall, I did have a great time reading this one. And that brings us to my third book for the month, and that was Darcy Coates' short story collection, Ghost Camera. In this, the first story is Darcy Coates' first um, short story that she wrote, I believe, when she was in high school. Um, and it took her forever to edit it and everything on her own and to make it the way that she wanted it. And then she ended up putting it aside and has now come back to it, and with only very little editing to clear up some things, she has released it with, I believe there are 14 stories in here. Do I have a, I don't think I have a table of contents. Um, there were quite a few stories in here, some longer, some shorter than others. But Ghost Camera itself is about a girl who finds a camera. She's a photographer. She finds a camera and took a few pictures, and she starts seeing ghosts. Um, but only in the Polaroid camera that she is taking pictures with. And there's a lot that goes on here and a lot of kind of fun backstory of what a ghost camera is and what it does and what it means for you. A few other stories in here. One that I really, really liked, I might have even liked it more than Ghost Camera, was one about a woman surviving a plane crash. And not they're in the frozen tundra area in the mountains, and um, she is accompanied by a stranger who is fixated on these shadows that are moving just beyond their uh, beyond where they can see in the blinding snow. There's a like a Baba Yaga story in here. Overall, this was a lot of fun, and I gave this collection 5 stars. Not every book in here, or not every short story, hit the mark for me, but overall, this is one that I think if you're interested in seeing who Darcy Coates is and her writing style, this is a fun one to jump into because you can read one story or read them all. Completely up to you how you consume this one. And I had so much fun with it. Next up on my reading was We Used to Live Here by Marcus Kluwer. This one, I don't know if I misunderstood or got books confused with others. But I originally picked this one because I saw it on both Mel Lenore Reads and Covers with Cassidy's TBR lists for the seasonal spooky challenge. And I thought that one of the characters was wheelchair bound. That ended up not being in there, or at least not a um, major plot point. But in this, we have a couple are renovating a house, and the old owner, well, the one of the kids who lived in the house growing up, he comes back and he wants to show his family the house. Our main character is not super does not stand up for herself necessarily, and she lets him in, and she just wants them to go away. Well, the man's daughter decides to play hide and go seek, and things start happening throughout the novel, and it's one that you are constantly wondering what's going on. Is the house haunted? Is there something's just not right, and there are people in there are or there's a woman who keeps appearing in the house, and it just has a lot of elements in it. This one, I think I originally gave 4 stars, but I think I'm going to bump it up just a little. I think I'm going to bump it up just a little, because I have not been able to let for this book to get out of my head. I keep going back wondering about the ending, and what exactly happened. I might go back one day and reread this one just to find out what went on. Um, Definitely some creepy factors in it and a lot of fun. And I'm amazed at where the author goes with this and the twist at the end. The next book that I read in October was 10 by Gretchen McNeil. This is a teenage, and then there were none by Agatha Christie inspired book. And in this, we have a group of 10 teenagers are invited to this party, and the host doesn't show up. And as things go on, we have characters start dying one at a time, and you're left trying to figure out what's going on. I had so much fun with this. I was a little bit concerned in the very beginning because there was so much of the stereotypical high school drama going on, but things do progress and get a lot better. And it gets more into the thriller aspects, and I was captivated once we hit that spot. So, had a great time with that. But after reading that way, I needed something a little bit more grown up. Um, and I went ahead and read Nosferatu by Joe Hill. In this one, we have Victoria McQueen, who at a point in her life as a child discovered a bridge that would take her anywhere to find things that were lost. And it started with her mother's ring that she left in the bathroom at a stop that they had made on their way home from a vacation. And her parents, when she returns it, brush it off as she found it in the car. But when Victoria has these moments, it also leads her to this bout of a very high fever afterward. And so she ends up kind of dismissing it as a fever dream as she gets older. But as an adult, she finds out that a man that was sent to prison due to her involvement is has escaped from jail, and she is going to have to revisit her past and figure out how to stop Charlie a second time. Overall, I really, really enjoyed this book. Joe Hill has a way of writing that I definitely am leery going into just because it's horror and who his stepdad is. Um, his stepfather is um, Stephen King. And I read Stephen King in high school. It scared the crap out of me, and I stopped reading horror for a really long time. But Joe Hill's writing captivates me, but doesn't. The events in it normally are just outlandish enough that I don't have the same scare factor with it. Overall, great book. Had a great time. I believe I gave this 5 stars. If not, I think I'm going to go back and give it 5 stars because I just had that great of a time with it. Up next in October, I read Cackle by Rachel Harrison. This was my first introduction into Rachel Harrison. She writes a lot of small town horror books, and I had so much fun with this. In this one, we have Annie, and she, up to this point in her life, has always been very predictable in what she's doing. She meets a guy, dates him, on the path for marriage, ticking off all of the boxes. And then her boyfriend breaks up with her, and she moves to upstate New York from Manhattan and moves into an apartment that is just infested with spiders. And I was more than a little concerned that the spiders were going to be the horror element. While spiders definitely creep me out, it it does not end on a creepy note, and there is so much in this book that has a lot of positive um, moments and just very upbeat. Really enjoyed Cackle. I believe I gave it 4.75 stars, only because I don't know that I could ever give a book with spiders in it 5 stars. All right, reaching toward the end of October, the next book I read was Chuck Tingle's Camp Damascus. In this one, we have the Camp Damascus, which is a gay conversion camp. And it is really what kind of props up the city um, and keeps people there and prospering. But there are some weird things that are happening around Camp Damascus. There are ads for it, and in it, the ads are pictures of some of the town members, but they don't remember ever going to Camp Damascus. One even would say that they had never been. Um, but one night, our main character is sitting at the table and all of a sudden starts puking up bugs. And it sends her down a path that she never expected of trying to figure out what is going on at Camp Damascus and how different elements of her life are playing into this. Uh, so I I did not enjoy this one quite as much as the others. I believe I did give it 4 stars, but even that, it's barely a 4 star. I was captivated through the whole thing. I think that everything in here was tastefully done, but the puking up bugs was just a lot too much for me. Um, and there was no real religion bashing that I expected when I found out what this one was about. Um, so, Chuck Tingle's Camp Damascus, kind of one of those interesting reads. And will I read another Chuck Tingle? Not sure, but this one was not horrible. Now we come to the part of October where reading slightly got derailed. On our drive to Arkansas, I put on Heads Will Roll by Josh Winning. I enjoyed the first 3/4 of this book 100%. I really thought that it was going to be a high 4 star. In this one, we have Willow, who is a sitcom star, and she goes to a camp that's like Camp Castaway, where people go when they need a break from all things technology. And in this, there were oh, there was so much going on that I really was kind of curious of what was going to happen next and everything else. We have baby doll heads are appearing in campers' rooms. Um, then people start dying. And it's just the the whole time I was reading it, I kept getting Scooby-Doo vibes and was mostly excited about that for the first 3/4 of the book. But then when the twist comes and things are being revealed, I lost the plot. Um, it felt very rushed at the end to me, and I didn't enjoy the end near as much as I did the rest. Now, for me, could that be because I was grieving the loss of my grandmother and just all the hard stuff that was coming up? Yes. And that totally could have colored how I enjoyed or the ending and how I felt about it. Um Currently I have this at a 3.75 star. Um it just everything up until the end I was fully on board for, but when I hit the end, I just, like I said, really lost interest and was very confused at the ending. So, not as great of a read at the end, but I did enjoy the first part. So, take that for what it is. The last book that I started in October was Ghost Eaters by Clay McLeod Chapman. This one is very trippy. We have three best friends, Aaron, Silas, and Toby. But we have a fourth friend too. Um, I don't remember her name. But Silas dies at the beginning or near the beginning of the book after seeming to overdose on um, some drug. And Toby, after the funeral, comes to Erin and tells her about a drug that allows her to see ghosts, where she can see Silas again and get the closure that she's wanting. And life derails for her after that. And she becomes addicted to this drug, or seemingly becomes addicted to this drug, and cannot um, let go of Silas and seeing him, or on this path to try to see him. And overall, this book takes some crazy, crazy turns. And I was just left spinning by the end. I tried this one on audio at first. The audio while driving was not helping me at all. So I ended up switching and I read the end physically while listening to the audiobook. And that really, I was able to stay focused without feeling like I was going to fall asleep. Um, but I had a lot of fun with this one. I'm definitely going to check out some more Clay McLeod Chapman and see if I enjoy his other books um, as much as I enjoyed this one. Overall, I believe I gave this one a 4.5 star. It was good. I enjoyed it, but it was a little more trippy than I normally would enjoy. Um, so, overall, good book. If you like trippy things, this one is definitely for you. And last but definitely not least, I needed a big palette cleanser after Ghost Eaters. that one just really messed my head up. And so I picked up Witch Please by Anne Aguirre. This was my final read that I needed for Spookopolython as well. Um, I had so much fun with this one. The main character, Danica, is easy to love. And Titus is a baker. Danica's a witch, and witches aren't supposed to tell anyone else about who they are or that they are witches, or that witches even actually exist. Um, but she is a fix-it witch. She has this power with technology that she can fix it without taking it apart. And so she and her sister have opened this business, and it's thriving in this town. But Titus, one day, his oven stops working, so he comes in to fix it witch and asks Danica to come look at his oven. She fixes it, and a romance blooms. This was so fun to read. I am giving this 5 stars. It was the perfect palate cleanser after all of the horror and dark elements that I read during October, and had a great time with it. All right, so there you have it, my October reading. I had so much fun this month, and um, just really am excited to continue reading and hopefully catch up on my reading goal for um, the year. But if not, it is what it is, and we'll just readjust for next year. I hope that your October and spooky season reading was as entertaining as mine was. And if you want more details on any of these titles and what I thought of them as I was reading them, please feel free to check out my vlogs for October. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.